When you're in your mid-20s, you really only have 3 options.
Get married,
Get a master's,
or run a marathon.
Hi, I'm Francis.
And I'm Brian,
And welcome to this week's episode of the Zone 2 podcast,
where we explore all there is to learn about the world of running. Francis, some days it feels like spring is right around the corner, and other days it feels like we are trapped in a relentless wintry purgatory.
An ice age, you might say.
You might say.
A frozen wasteland.
Someone should name an animated movie franchise after that.
Only if the sequels have to do with plate tectonics.
That sounds good. And
the main character is a squirrel, a prehistoric squirrel.
I've been told that my celebrity lookalike is
Sid the Sloth.
How do you know that before I said that?
Anyway, sorry.
Okay,
Continue.
sorry. Back to the introduction to our running podcast. So here in Boston, today was actually gorgeous. I went for a run at 2 p.m. today, which is a bit of a controversial topic. 2 p.m. run, but it was 45 degrees. I went in shorts and a t-shirt. Last week, we did not have the same luck. It was pretty brutal. When faced with the trials and tribulations of Mother Nature's unforgiving wrath, how was your week of training?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. It was very cold. Yeah, so I did a speed workout on Tuesday, which was really nice. I did a 2x2, 2x2 miler. Felt great. Wednesday, I decided to take off because I was going out with some friends to see a stage production of Homer's The Odyssey, which has nothing to do with running, but was fantastic. And then...
Please, tell us more.
I really shouldn't. So yeah, then I took Wednesday off. I did 8 miles on Thursday. I did 7 miles on Friday. I did a steady state run, 1 mile warm up, 6 miles at a 6:50 pace on Saturday. And then on Sunday, yesterday, I did my longest run to date of 16 miles.
That's outstanding.
It felt great. It felt great. It was definitely an effort. It was long. It was a long time to be on my feet, but I enjoyed it. And I finished it up with possibly one of the best Italian subs I've ever had.
Was that just because you were really hungry, like my experience at Friendly's last week, or do you think it was genuinely a really good Italian sub?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah. Dino's in the North End. Look them up.
Plug for Dino's.
Plug for Dino's. Not sponsored.
Not yet. What was your total mileage then?
I believe my total mileage was around 46 miles. So,
sweet.
Not too bad. How about you? How was your week?
I also hit exactly 46 miles last week. I had a really good week of training. I feel like very consistent. I did a nice 7 miler on Wednesday. Enjoyed a little bit of sun. It was still cold and windy, but nice to be out on the Esplanade. Thursday, I did a speed workout through Heartbreakers in Cambridge. The MIT track still frozen over, so we had to go to the Esplanade. We did some 800 repeats, which felt really nice. Honestly, that day felt like the first time in months that my calves weren't even like a little bit sore. I felt so good just letting it rip. And then on Saturday, I did a 17-mile long run with my dad's friend, Paul Sullivan, who is a Boston local now. He knows my dad. They volunteered on the board for the American Red Cross in New Jersey together. Paul Sullivan is a 81-time marathoner. Yes, you heard me right. 81.
I thought you were going to say 81-year-old.
Nope.
But no, he's run 81 marathons.
81 marathons. It's unbelievable.
So I'm assuming, isn't 81. That means he's run more than one marathon per year.
He said the most marathons he did in a year was 8. We are not professionally recommending. It seems like it's doable. It's really impressive. He had some good learnings for me. It was interesting hearing some advice. Maybe we'll try to get Paul on the pod. I feel like that'd be a good resource. Yeah, definitely. It was really humbling, me being there training for my first, being with somebody who's ran so many marathons. But good week of training. I'm hoping the little bit warmer weather kind of sticks around this week, and I have a 20-mile long run coming up on Saturday.
The big one.
That is a big one. But yeah, Francis, it was a good week of training. I'm glad to hear you had a good week too. And we were twinning for our mileage. How about that?
46 and 46?
There you go.
Great distance.
So both of the guests that we've had on the pod so far have been running marathons for pretty selfish reasons. But tonight's guest is running for a cause that's bigger than herself. So we're going to be welcoming 2023 Newport Marathon finisher and 2025 Boston Marathon runner, Haley Medeiros, to the podcast. Welcome, Haley.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, Haley, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the interview, if you will, why don't you just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background in running, what inspired you to start running, and how you found your way into marathon running?
Yeah, so I feel like it's kind of a classic response of I was a high school sports athlete. I played 3 sports, pretty burned out by the end of high school, and was like, I'm not going to play a sport in college. And then when I got to college, I had a lot of free time, and I really missed the physical activity component. And I started running by myself when I was in college, and I found it to be extremely meditative, and also like where I found the most mental clarity. And then you just start doing that thing where you run 1 mile, and then you run 2, and then you end up somehow running a half marathon, and then you keep kind of going.
I feel like that's a very relatable sentiment. I know I've mentioned this before, but like you go back to my Strava, my first runs are like 2 miles, 3 miles, and that's all I could do. And now it's like, 8 miles. No problem.
Then before you know it, he's doing 16-mile long runs like it's nothing on his Sunday. Look at this guy.
It was not nothing, believe me. I certainly felt it. So, Haley, you're running the Boston Marathon, probably one of the most historic and iconic marathons in the world, and you're running it for charity. Could you tell us a little bit about who you're running it for, what you're supporting, and your connection to the cause?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of background about me. It will make more sense when I tell you about the charity itself. I'm training to be a school psychologist. So I'm doing a PhD program, almost there. And part of our core values as school psychologists are to be social justice advocates in addition to providing like mental health services that are more direct services. So I was thinking a lot about this the last couple of years, like when I was considering charities for Boston, and thinking about like how do I step into that role more than just how I have been already. And I'd heard of the Brookline Center for Community Mental Health because it's one of our clinical placement options for when we do clinical like outpatient and inpatient rotations. And I also moved to Brookline a couple years ago. So I just thought that it would be a good place to apply to because it aligned with like a lot of my values. And they provide outpatient mental health services to families regardless of their resources, which is also really important to me. And I just feel like they aligned with so many aspects of my life.
So, Haley, when you set your sights on running Boston for charity, did you consider other charities? Did you know that you wanted to support Brookline? Like, what did that process for trying to run Boston as a charity run look like?
Yeah, it actually is a bit of a challenge, I think, to navigate the charity running whole scheme, especially for Boston, because like Francis said, it's such an iconic race. Everyone wants to run it, and a lot of people want to run it for charity. So I've actually applied a couple of times over the years. I've been wanting to run the Boston Marathon for a long time, which we can get into. But I applied to all ones that focused on children's health or children's like holistic wellness. So Boston Children's Hospital, I have worked there for a number of years. And I also applied to another outpatient site, the Home for Little Wanderers, and I think just the Brookline Center, because you have to be like a little bit careful and strategic that you can't apply to too many, but not too little as well, because you really want to be like intentional about which charity you pick, because you have to be like actually really care about it if you're going to put your own credit card down and say like, I am going to pay X number of dollars for this cause if I can't fundraise it.
So it's almost like a early decision in college where you're committing to it without even knowing whether or not you're going to get in.
Yeah, you really have to like, there's a whole application process. For some charities, you even have to interview at a phone interview where they ask you about like your budgeting and fundraising plans. It's very in-depth.
And so is that just to know that they're going to get the commitment amount at the end of the day, or?
I think they want to really know that your goals and your values align with the charity's mission, because like, for instance, if you pick something that is not important to you, or it's like, maybe it's of moderate importance, you're not going to be as passionate and as driven to fundraise the money as someone who is like, really, this is very meaningful and significant to me.
I guess the charity causes, they also kind of get not only the donation money itself, but they also get the outreach that the individual
awareness,
running
yes.
is giving by hosting those fundraising events. So that makes sense. That makes sense.
And that's kind of how I justify it for myself too, is like beyond the dollar amount. Every time I talk to someone about this, every time someone passes it on for me, it's raising more awareness about this cause that I'm so passionate about, children's mental health.
Yeah, every time you come on a podcast to talk about it, you're helping spread the word. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard from people who have ran the Boston Marathon for charity in the past that raising your commitment can be harder than actually training for the marathon itself. It's my understanding that when you make that commitment, if you don't raise that commitment, you are personally financially responsible for the amount left over, which seems like, I mean, that is extra motivation, not that you need it to raise the money. How has the experience been for you when it comes to raising money for your charity?
Yeah, it is a big commitment to make. So the way it works is when you make your donation page, you put your credit card down and it says on April 21st, 2025, if you don't reach the fundraising minimum, you will be charged this amount. What I've heard people refer to it throughout the process is it's like a double marathon, that you're both worried about the fundraising and you're worried about the physical aspect of the marathon. And I think the first 2 months of training, I didn't even really think about the physical aspects of the marathon. I was so focused on my fundraising plan and like how to be intentional about awareness too, because you don't want to overwhelm people. There's a lot of people running Boston too, frankly, like where we live. So you really have to be careful about how much you're inundating people with information.
What were some of the, like when you first started brainstorming ideas for fundraising, what were some of the ones that really jumped out at you as potentially being like the most effective ways to raise money, or ones that, you know, maybe you tried but didn't work out as well?
Yeah, I think the one, I'll start with what didn't work out, or I just honestly lost sight of, Super Bowl squares. Everyone does Super Bowl squares, and I just did not understand the concept of them and didn't do them.
I don't know what Super Bowl squares are.
I'm not the person to.
I'll explain it. So for anyone listening who doesn't know what a Super Bowl square is, it is a 10 by 10 grid where you have the vertical axis and the horizontal axis have randomized numbers 1 through 10, and you get a square on the grid. So you buy a square, and if the game ends with the last number of the score of the two teams being aligned with the numbers that you have on your X and Y axis, then you win a small amount of money. But it's a good fundraiser because people pay more money for squares than you get paid out if you win it.
Oh, I see. Wait, that's what you were showing me at that Super Bowl party.
Yeah, so
okay.
Francis and I went to a Super Bowl party at Zach Schroll's house. Zach, I know you're listening. And I was watching the game, and I was so stoked because my number for the Chiefs was a 0. And they were really putting in the work for me. They were trying to help me get that payout. I've never been more invested in a Super Bowl my entire life. But for the Eagles, I had a 9, and that's a tough number to try to get to with touchdowns and field goals. It just, you need a lot of points to add up to 9. But
yeah, baseball's a hell of a sport.
So Super Bowl squares didn't work out for you, Haley.
Well, I didn't. I honestly didn't even attempt them. But I have many teammates who did attempt them, and it worked really well. I had tried to give myself this staggered approach where I did a big in-person fundraising event at a bar. I had a raffle. I had all these things, and I was like, let me do this first, and I'll focus all on this, and then I'll get to the next couple of things. Some other ideas I have that I'm pretty excited about are a March Madness pickleball tournament, because everyone loves pickleball. And I think it'll be really fun as well, in addition to benefiting charity. And then also one I'm excited about, my team, is we're doing a charity fundraiser at Amelia's Taqueria in Brookline, where we're rolling burritos. So there's a burrito line for charity specifically on Wednesday, March 5th, 2025, from 6 to 8 p.m.
So, Haley, a couple weeks ago, I attended a fundraiser you hosted at the Stats Bar in Southie. I had a lot of fun. I also happened to win a raffle at the event for a candle making class, which I have not gone to yet, but I'm super excited to learn how to make a candle and get a candle out of it. Just all around really stoked about that. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of hosting that event, how that kind of went for you?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm super excited that you won the candle making class. That was my favorite raffle prize.
Haley did
I didn't
talk
rate-
me talk. She had a good sales pitch. Haley did talk me into putting my tickets in that jar.
I didn't rig the raffle. And it's a lot of work to create and then, have a fundraiser run smoothly. I pick Stats because they're really great in that they don't charge a room fee for anything. A lot of places do. So I know that they are like all booked up for fundraisers. A couple of my friends are doing fundraisers there. And they also upcharge 2 drinks for you that some of the proceeds go directly towards your charity. So they're like a very charity friendly place. So I would definitely put a plug in for any charity marathon runner who wants to host a fundraiser. Go to Stats. They're great.
One of the things that we've talked about on the pod is the fact that running is such a community-oriented sport. And I think I'm wondering if that sometimes works against you when it comes to raising money for events like the Boston Marathon, because you're raising money for the Brookline Center, but I'm sure a lot of the people that you run with who would be willing to donate to a cause like that are also getting inundated with other fundraisers from other people who are also running the Boston Marathon. And do you find that you have to reach outside of that running community? Do you find that the running community itself, though, is still very willing to kind of help out? What does that look like?
I think the take home that I've gotten from fundraising in general is that like the people who you expect are going to donate a lot will break your heart. And then the people who you would never expect to donate will shock you. This is not directly answering your question, but they're just like, people have different values and different priorities. And I've been so surprised by some of the people who have come out of the woodwork to donate. And I don't even understand how they got the donation link. Like maybe it was through social media or someone shared it. And then within the running community itself, I definitely feel like people are open to donating, but yeah, they're more inundated with Boston Marathon fundraising than anyone. So I really haven't gone to that community, honestly. I tried to start with like my close inner circle and like ask people. Well, first I started on social media, but that's like a very passive ask. And then you kind of have to go to like more direct asks, which I was really lucky that I raised 50% of my goal without directly asking anyone, which is a blessing. And then you have to go to the more like intentional fundraising of like having an event or like having raffles, having something that like really motivates people.
And you said coming up you have a pickleball tournament for March Madness?
Yeah.
That sounds, I will say I am devastatingly good at pickleball.
A lot of people say that. Not many people can back it up. I look forward to seeing you try to defend that assertion, Francis. I have my doubts.
Well, I was taught by my grandmother. She actually won her country club's pickleball tournament one year.
I think I saw that on the news, actually. That's a
She was not on the news. She has a great philosophy when it comes to pickleball. She says if the ball goes over my head, it's gone. She's not going to go for it. She values her balance.
That's a woman who knows her boundaries.
Exactly.
I will say the people who are most excited about my pickleball fundraiser are my parents, my mom especially. This is very driven by her because she loves pickleball.
Hey, it's the sport of the century, I think.
I was under the impression it was running. So, talking about running, that reminded me that this is actually a podcast about running. So, Haley, this is your second marathon. You ran Newport 2 years ago. I know I've been picking your brain about Newport since I will be running it in a couple months. I'm curious if you had any big lessons or takeaways from your first marathon training cycle and how that's kind of played into your preparation for Boston.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a secret. I actually ran Newport because I always wanted to run Boston and I didn't want to do it first. So it was really like, I was like, I want to run a marathon without having all this spotlight on me to fundraise, or even just like the spotlight of Boston in general. And I think my biggest takeaways were that you have to be flexible with your training cycle. I'm not someone who really, I don't run 50 miles a week. I run 3 or 4 times a week, and that's enough for me. And my body just cannot take more than that, and I honestly just don't have time as well. And then the second takeaway, I think, is really something that I've learned, like being on this training cycle. When I ran Newport, it was a very solitary experience. It was a lot about myself and like being alone with myself and training and my own mental fortitude. And this time I've gone a much more community-based route, and I've really just like loved the power of community and soaking that in. It's been such a much more enjoyable training cycle because of that.
So you would say you prefer having the social support or the support of others for training?
Yeah, I could have said this earlier when we talked about like how did I become a runner, but I was a very solitary runner for years, and then I'll run like with a friend here and there, and then it wasn't until I would say like the last 4 or 5 years I've started running in running groups, and I run with groups of friends, and like I have all these like beautiful moments on runs where you like talk to people and catch up. I need both the solitary running and that. I still have times when I'm like, I need to run by myself. But Newport, like my 20-mile training run for Newport, I ran in the woods near my parents' house, and it was a 5-mile out and back. I did it 4 times. I was losing my mind. Like, yeah, and then the race itself was amazing. Like, we had amazing weather. I actually ended up running from miles 3 to 23. I ran with this like random guy I met. He was a 47-year-old dad named Dan. I will never see him again, but like we had such a deep conversation. It went by so fast.
Dan, if you're listening, good job in the 2023 Newport Marathon.
Yeah, that would actually be crazy if he was. What a connection.
I'm sure someone named Dan is listening.
He honestly might be, because he's trying to run a marathon in every state. He was on his 27th marathon.
Wow. Okay. We should try to get Dan on the pod.
Yeah, we should. If you can find Dan, Haley, that would be incredible.
Any Dan? Do we know any Dans?
Any Dan, come on the pod. So, training for a marathon obviously is super stressful. I've found that out. Brian's found that out. You said yourself, your body can only take doing so much per week. What do you do to recover after, say, a really long run or a really intense workout?
I've been trying to be a lot better this training cycle about fueling immediately after I run. So like having a smoothie as soon as I get home or just something. That's something that's hard for me. And then I'm a big foam roller, big stretcher. I do a lot of yoga, so I definitely try to stretch like immediately after. And then I've also developed this bad habit that I discovered from one of my friends. They're called Normatec boots.
Those are just compression boots that pump air like into these bladders that you wrap around your legs, basically.
I like the way you described that, Francis.
Well, that's what they are. It's kind of like a blood pressure cuff.
Yeah,
basically.
It's like you're getting the most supreme massage of your life, and it's just flushing out all the lactic acid. I was introduced to these by my friend Gabby Lopez, if you're listening. She actually brought them to the Newport Marathon, and I used them after that. She had somehow come across a pair, and they were in her possession. And since then, like, that was what I didn't feel any sort of soreness after the marathon. I was fine. We honestly, like, we had a brunch and then we went out to the bars that night. It was crazy that, like, my legs were fine. I don't suggest that for post-marathon recovery, though.
Going to the bars or using the Normatec?
Going to the bars.
So, talking a little bit more about the running side of things, Haley. So, what are you wearing for shoes right now?
I wear Nike Pegasus 41s specifically.
How did you come to find that shoe? Did you try a few? Have you ever had a shoe rotation, or were you just looking for kind of a one shoe does it all? You knew the mileage you were going to be doing, and you wanted something that felt comfortable, felt reliable, and you knew how it felt.
I think back when I was training for Newport, I went through the whole shoe crisis of what shoe is for me. I had always run in Nike. They just fit my feet really well. Back then, though, I did try New Balance. I can't remember exactly what version, and I also tried Hoka's, which just frankly are not for me. I still do really like the New Balance ones, but I rotate between Nikes. So yeah, I have 2 pairs of honestly the same ones. I've had so many pairs of Nikes over the year. They just fit my foot.
I've heard also specifically the Pegasus is like the workhorse of Nike shoes. Like a lot of people I know who wear Nikes are like, I have a pair of Pegasus. I've had them for I've worn different versions of the Pegasus shoe for like the past 30 years, and it's just like such a standard.
Yeah, I always come back to it. I've tried to branch out.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do you have a specific race shoe that you're looking to wear, or that you've tried, or are you gonna just go with the Nike Pegasus?
I know I should look more into all these things, but maybe I allocated all my expensive running habits to my Normatec boots.
Not a bad decision.
Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna go with the pegs. That's what I wore last time, and it worked really well. And yeah, I have 2 pairs of them. I'll probably get a new pair like a month out. We have a coach through our charity running team. His name is Coach Rick, and he's given very specific shoe instructions about like how fresh your shoes should be. He said there should be no more than 50 miles on them. So that's my goal, is to like break them in, but not have them be, worn down at all.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what it's like working with a coach? How's that set up? Is he a coach through the charity? How's that organized? And what sort of role has having a coach played in your preparation for Boston?
Yeah, so Coach Rick started this running organization called the Marathon Coalition. He himself has run 32 marathons. He's run Boston a number of times, and he knows the course like the back of his hand. He loves to tell anecdotes about it, and he just loves running, and he loves charity runners. So we have group runs on Saturdays with a couple different charity teams. So I think the Tufts team is the biggest one. Next is Brookline, and then there's a bunch of smaller ones. And it's been really lovely to have a whole community of running, and to have a coach who is so knowledgeable and invested too about all aspects of running: nutrition, shoes. He's very passionate about shoes. He washes his shoes after, I think, every run. He is just like lives and breathes running, and lives and breathes the Boston Marathon course. So we have water stops set up, and like, all these things that you have to think about when you're training, that I had to think about as a solitary runner, of like, is there water? What if I have to go to the bathroom? I'm like, who do I ask if I have this pain? It's all there for you, which has been super nice.
So when you say he has water stops set up, is that during the training runs?
Yeah,
Wow.
So I don't know if you've done any of your training runs on the Newton Hills.
I have not.
Well, you should.
I've heard they're pretty tough.
Yeah, that's why you should train on them.
Okay. I will.
So a really beautiful part of running in Boston is there's so many people out running, even in this weather that we're having. And a lot of people are out running on Saturday mornings on the Boston Marathon course. So there's actually like multiple water stops, multiple charities, ours being one of them. And you just see a bunch of people out there. I've seen Brian when I was out there running.
Are these public water stops, or is it just for the charity groups?
They ask for ID, and if you're not part of the charity, they slap your hand away.
Actually?
No, but that'd be... I haven't tried. I think you probably get bad karma if you take water from people who are
that's true.
raising money for like you're stealing from
But
charities.
they have there's so much water. And there's
I was going to say it's water. It's not like...
Well, some of
They
them, I'm
have
sure they have like
snacks.
snacks and stuff.
I
Like,
wouldn't take the snacks.
you're going to take a Nutri-Grain bar from charity?
I've taken water from a different charity.
But you're also running for charity. So it's like you're doing something good anyway. I'm not doing anything good.
Yeah, Francis is one of those selfish runners we were talking about earlier.
I'm one of those leeches that is only in it for myself. And then what if I go and take the water? Bad karma. I get shin splints a week later. Who knows?
Is that why you got shin splints?
No, that's because I forgot to knock on real wood.
Well, Coach Rick, if you're listening, it sounds like you're the Yoda of running. Maybe the Gandalf? The
Dumbledore?
I'm not allowed to make Harry Potter references on this podcast anymore. Who do you think Coach Kev is? From the impression he's left me on Strava, he strikes me as a bit of a Han Solo type. I don't know if that's misguided.
Yeah, no, I that's 100% right. Yeah, he's 100% a Han Solo character.
So, Haley, what has been your favorite part of the current marathon training cycle so far?
There's been a lot of really positive experiences thus far. I think I've just met so many people while in this training cycle, and had so many conversations around like why I'm running, what it means to me. I've met a lot of different runners, and I think that's been the really beautiful part is like talking about this bigger why of like, why are we doing this? Why are we running in 5 degrees on ice? And like what it means to like run for, like we said, something that's bigger than ourselves. It's a really powerful feeling.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was curious, I guess, if your feelings about running for the marathon and about training for the marathon are different now that you're doing it, like you said, for that cause, for a reason that's bigger than yourself, rather than just going through the motions. You mentioned before the term solitary runner, running by yourself, and now you're part of this community, you're part of this team that's training together for a cause that you really believe in and is related to your livelihood and something that you are very passionate about. So does it feel empowering every time you have to go out for a training run? And how do you think that's going to change, I guess, your approach to running the race itself?
I think so far it makes it easier to train in the sense that it's like it's just what you get up and do with other people who have the same values, or like we're all doing it together. And then I think it is really helpful in the harder times, like when you're freezing, when something hurts, like to remember, why am I doing this? Because when you're doing it just for yourself, you're like, well, I could just stop. You know, what will really happen? And what I've started doing is like I picture different kids that I've worked with over the years who've left really a mark on me. And I think about them and like how much I want them to succeed, how much I want them to be happy. And every child deserves to be happy and to be healthy and to feel joy. And that's really what my charity is a proponent of, is like for all kids to have this well-being and to have this opportunity for joy. And I kind of channel that and try to make that my why and be like, if these kids can experience these hardships, like you can get through this mile or this 16 miles.
Haley, thanks for sharing about your motivations for running, and I think the experience of being a charity runner, which is, it sounds like it's a lot different from what we're going through and what I think the experience of a solitary marathon trainer is really like. So I appreciate you sharing about your cause and your experience and your learnings, and we look forward to hearing a little bit more about it. Before we let you go, do you have a specific hype up song that you use to get you just absolutely amped up, ready to get out there and crush some miles or listen to on race day?
I do. I have a couple. This is a really hard question to think about. My first one is This Version of You by Odessa. Great song. And then the second one is Rihanna's halftime Super Bowl performance. It's about 13 minutes. It's just like absolutely a hype song, the whole thing.
Oh, that's sick. Okay, I'm gonna have to add that to the pre-race playlist. Haley, that's I think all we have time for today. But thank you so much for coming on the pod, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the pod. I definitely learned a lot, and good luck with the rest of your training, and good luck running Boston.
Thanks for having me.
So Haley is running Boston to support the Brookline Center for Community Mental Health, which is an amazing organization that does great work here in Boston. If you're interested in learning more about their cause or supporting Haley's fundraising efforts, you'll find a link to both of those pages in the show notes and on our Instagram page. Before we go, do you have a fun fact for us?
I do have a fun fact. Did you know that river otters hold hands while they sleep so that they don't drift away from one another?
I did actually know that, but that is quite empowering. I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening to the Zone 2 podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at the Zone 2 podcast. You can catch new episodes every Wednesday streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.